Hi, today we're going to create our very first NetBeans Platform application. So an application that makes use of the infrastructure of NetBeans IDE and many other applications. We'll call our application Book Manager because we're going to create an application that will manage books in a library or something like that. So we'll start by adding a new module. It's all modular in the NetBeans platform called book domain, org.book.domain. And our book domain module is going to provide some domain objects such as an author. So an author will have a name, that's all, get name and set name. And we're also going to have, in addition to the author, we're going to have a book. And a book will consist of a title and an author. And we'll create a constructor for this. We'll create getters and setters, get author, get title, set author, set title. Okay, so our domain is complete, and we're going to export the package so that we can use it in other modules. And the first module is going to be book viewer. So here's book viewer. Click next, org domain or book viewer, and we'll click finish. And in the viewer, we're going to set a dependency on the book domain so that we can use those two classes that we have there. So we have here author and book. Now we start by creating some UI representations of those objects. So we'll create a new package called nodes, and in here we'll create two Java classes, AuthorNode and also a class called BookNode. So this will give a display name, an icon, and actions. So basically UI wrappers for these domain objects. Next we're going to need to have another package which we'll call factories. So these, well, not a class, but a package, new Java package, factories. Now in this package factories we're going to have two classes, AuthorChildFactory and BookChildFactory. And these are each going to create the node. So the AuthorChildFactory will create multiple author nodes, and BookChildFactory will create multiple book nodes. And we're also going to have a package for GUI component. So here is the GUI component, and it will be in the Explorer position on the left hand side, and it will be called let's say author viewer. So we'll have a list of authors with their books. Okay, now this is the basic infrastructure that you need typically in a NetBeans platform. So let's start with the book node. So here's the book node. It extends bnode. So this will give us a display name and icons and actions for working with books, displaying books to the user. And we need a constructor, and the constructor is not going to have an object but a book. Let's import the book and set the display name to the title, and there will not be children, it will be the highest level. And we'll also publish into the lookup whenever the book is selected. When the book node is selected, we'll publish the underlying book into the lookup of the node, which will publish it into the lookup of the window when the window is selected, and the window will enable it to be published into the global lookup. So this simply via this statement here we're making the book available to the rest of the application. Now we need to do the same thing for the author node. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to go into where it is found and then just replace that here, and this should be called AuthorNode. This is AuthorNode, and we receive an author, which means we will have here a name. Great. So AuthorNode and BookNode are done, and both of them publish their underlying object into the context of the node, which will make it available to the window and which will make it available to the whole application. Now we will go to the AuthorChildFactory, and this will implement Child Factory. So we're going to create children of the root node, author, and we will need to, or will it be extends, and this method will automatically be called when the AuthorChildFactory is instantiated. We'll say list, add, and a new author, and what will the new author will have a name, so Shakespeare, for example. So we're just going to hard code a couple of names. Ultimately, you're going to want to use a database or a web service of some kind, something like that. And here we will return the author node that we already have created. Let's run with a try catch. Node and return node null, and let's create the author node here. Author node equals null. There. Okay, so we have AuthorChildFactory, and so the AuthorChildFactory will be instantiated, 2 authors will be created, we'll get into the author node, and from here we're going to create books. The BookChildFactory, and we'll pass in there our author. So get the BookChildFactory and create the constructor, and here we're going to also extend Child Factory, but this time for books. Get the import statements and implement, and get the bean. So here's the author, and we'll say if the bean get name equals Shakespeare, then we will add a new book with the title Othello and the bean Macbeth, and we return true. Else if the bean get name equals Dickens, then we'll add Oliver Twist. Okay, and in the same way as we have in AuthorChildFactory this bit, we will need that in BookChildFactory. So this is all you need to do when creating some kind of tree structure in a NetBeans Platform application. So it's considering what you get out of this, it's not very much code. So now we need to call this little infrastructure from our view component, and what happened here? AuthorNode should be okay. AuthorChildFactory bean. There we go. Now let's implement here Explorer Manager Provider, which is a NetBeans Platform construct enabling us to easily hook up GUI components to data. That's what it's for. So I'm going to implement this, and now that we've implemented it, I'm going to return an Explorer Manager, and we'll create a local variable, and we'll initialize it. Now the point of this little bit of code down there is that this is where we're going to call our little infrastructure that we created earlier. So we're going to first say that there'll be a node, a root node, and it will have children, and the children will consist of the AuthorChildFactory. Let's see, AuthorChildFactory and true. So we are instantiating AuthorChildFactory, which automatically will create two authors. And when two authors are created, they'll be added to this list, which will automatically call this method, which will create for each of these two a new author node. And when in each case the author node is created, when it is created in the constructor, you can see that the children will be created. So the children of the author node, and the children of the author node consist of two book nodes. So here three books are created, and for each of those three books, when true is returned here, for each of them a new book node is created. So that's how it works. Now we need to have a NetBeans Platform component which will automatically call this method here. So we have a bean tree view with new bean tree view. This is a NetBeans Platform component, and when it is added to the component hierarchy, which is what I'm doing right now, border layout center. So I've added this special swing component from the NetBeans Platform to the component hierarchy. And at runtime, what it will do is it will ask its parent, do you implement Explorer Manager Provider? The parent will say yes, and then automatically the bean tree view itself will call get root context to get the root from this Explorer Manager. So we could have multiple different components within the same container, which will all get the same data, and this will enable all the different GUI components to display the same set of data in different ways, in trees and in lists and things like that, and in tree tables and in icons. So this enables us to create very rich GUIs that interact with each other very easily. So this is all we need, and finally we need to publish this this little construction into the global lookup, and we do that like this, which means that the Explorer Manager, which contains the node hierarchy, so you can see the node hierarchy is provided to the Explorer Manager. We're putting the Explorer Manager itself into the lookup of this window, which means when this window is selected, the nodes will be published into a global context, and the properties window, for example, will automatically be able to interact with it. So we can see that when we run this. So we start up the application. Here it is. So you can see our two authors and their books. We don't want to have this top, the root node. So we can say set root visible you false. Okay, so run the application again. Okay, so now we can see our authors and their books, and if you open the properties window, when you select a different object, you can see that this window is updated, which is all because of this statement here. If we didn't have this, you wouldn't see the properties window being updated. So whenever we select a different object, whenever we select a different node, like the author node or the book node, we're publishing the underlying object into a global context, into a global repository. And the properties window is listening to that, and it picks up that there's a new node available, and it gets properties from that node and displays those properties. So what we want to have now is an editor window in the middle here. So we'll create a new module called book editor, org book editor, and the book editor is going to have some GUI component for editing. So we'll create a new window, book editor, and we'll have two labels here. So title and the text field, and another one, author, and we'll align these to the right. And this is the title field, and this is the author field, and we'll hop in here. We'll start listening to the global context for the objects that we care about. Actions, global context, lookup result, book class. And we need to implement the lookup listener, which will enable us to listen to the lookup. So what we're saying now is listen to the global lookup whenever the window opens, and whenever there's a new book object there, notify me. And here the notifications will be received, and this result changed here. And when the window closes, stop listening. And now, from that book result, from the all instances here, we're going to work with this now. So this contains all of the books that are available in the global context. So we say for all instances, so we say if it has next, which will get the last one, then all instances iterator next, this is the book. This is the last book available in the lookup. So we say title field set text book, get title, and author field set text book, get author, get name. Okay, Run the application again. And now you can see when a different book is selected, it is shown in the book editor. Now we can't edit it yet, but the point is simply you can see the interaction now between the editor window and the viewer window. In the case of the properties window, it is listening for nodes. So it gets the author node and it gets the book node now, and from those nodes it gets the properties of the node. In the case of the editor window, it listens the way we've set it up. It's listening for book objects. Whenever there's a book object, it will update itself. So here's a new book, but now there isn't a new book, so it's not going to update itself. Only when there's a new book that's available, then you will see new information here. So here, these are the basic getting started points for working with the NetBeans platform.